Now I'm going to make this really clear. The Sony A7IV is definitely not a cinema camera, but how much money would it cost to get a pretty close result? And in today's video, we are actually going to be kitting out the Sony A7IV to create a handheld cinema build, or get as close as we can. Now in this video, I am going to make one assumption, and that's assuming that you have the necessary parts to get this camera working in a vlogging type scenario. So things like the main lens you're going to be using, the microphone you're going to be using, and even your SD card are things that you probably have anyway. So for this video, it's actually specifically about the cinema rig build. So these are items here that I'm assuming that you guys have in one way, shape, or another. If you guys want to pick these up, they're in the link in the description down below, along with the rest of the items in this kit. Now every kit begins with K, but every rig starts off with a cage. And we're actually going to be using the small rig Sony A7IV cage for this camera. I picked a lot of the small rig parts because they are super affordable in comparison to the other things that are offered, and they're a pretty reputable brand and they're pretty trustworthy in terms of their build and their quality. I also like that all of the cages come with this little tool here, so it makes it a lot easier to actually get the mounting screws and the points on your camera. And there you have it. We have just spent our first $69 on this rig. Nice. Now this is going to be the RE Rosette mount that's going to go on the side of my cage. Now if you are using any accessories that require the RE Rosette mount, you can put this on the side of your cage, and it's an easy way to use some of the accessories that you already have on this Sony rig cage. Next is going to be our small rig base plate. Now this is a pretty simple base plate, and essentially what it does is it gives you the ability to mount things like tripod plates, or even putting on 50mm rods that you could put other accessories onto later on. Now I got these nice 12-inch rods, mostly because if there's a bunch of different accessories that I want to put on here, I want to make sure I'm prepared for that. A lot of times I get rods that are a little bit too short and I can't put all the things that I want to rig onto those rods. So I just got the extra large ones. You can get whatever rods that are going to fit the accessories that you're going to mount later on. Now I've taken a new liking to using the NATO rail system for a lot of my accessories, and getting a top handle that uses the NATO rail comes in handy because it's easy on, easy off. And that's why we're going to be using the small rig top handle for this A7IV kit. Now, I, again, have very big hands, and having a grip that's going to be able to fit my hand is actually incredibly important, especially when I'm shooting handheld. So I got the bicycle handle grip that's able to not only be comfortable, but it also covers my hand. Now on top of that, I'm going to use a small rig monitor mount that goes on accessories like side handles and top handles, or even on the cage itself. Now I did mention the RE Rosette adapter before, and that's because I want to... Now I did mention the RE Rosette adapter before, and that's so I could put on my wooden side handle. Now this might not be the most affordable thing in the world, but it is a really nice side handle. And for the same reason why I have the top handles, I do need something that's going to be able to fit, that's comfortable, and it's high quality. Now this one actually uses the RE Rosette mount, which I like a lot because it's nice and it's sturdy, and by using the adapter I'm still able to use it on something like the Sony A7IV handheld rig. Now in terms of mounting V-mount options, I went pretty simple with the small rig V-mount plate. Now this is pretty simple, it doesn't articulate, it doesn't have any extra bells or whistles on it. It's just something that I could put V-mount batteries onto to help power this entire rig. Now the power to this rig, I'm using an FX Ion, FXL Ion. It actually looks like FX Lion.
Lion!
Now this is the V-mount battery that I'm going to use to power this kit. Reason being is it actually has a USB-C port that's in it, so I could actually use this to power the A7IV by using a USB-C cable. On top of that, you do have your regular D-tap that's on there that's going to be able to power things like our monitor. And then next is going to be our monitor, and this is the Atomos Shinobi 5-inch monitor. It's the original version, there's nothing new, no bells and whistle, and it connects by HDMI. Now I also picked up a small rig thin HDMI cables. I do find the coil ones to be useful, but what ends up happening is it gets a lot in the way. But with this thin one, not only is it nice and inconspicuous, but it also has this little Velcro on here too for great cable management. I'm also just going to use a generic dummy battery. This is the MPF version for Sony batteries into the D-tap on the side of the FX Lion battery. So in every rig build video, I've been using the Rode NTG microphone, mostly because you have an adjustable gain, it has great audio, and it has a 3.5mm jack that you could find on most cameras. Now for that final touch of your cinema rig build, that thing that screams out professional camera is actually just having a matte box. Now, matte boxes are great for cutting out sun flare, but they're also great as well as making yourself look like you're a professional and you know what you're doing. We're actually gonna use the small rig matte box for this rig build as our final touch. Now, like I said, lenses are things that I'm assuming that a lot of you guys have for your camera out the gate, but we're gonna be using the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 art lens. Now what you actually have to do is get the corresponding ring from the filter thread for your matte box. So this is an adapter from an 82 to a 95mm ring. So we're actually gonna put this on the front of our camera, and then all we have to do is clamp on our matte box. Now a lot of matte boxes nowadays only have the option of going with 4x5 type filter sizes, kind of like this one, which is my Dream Effects by Prism Lens Effects. Now that can get pretty expensive when you want to get different filters in this format. And in the interest of keeping things cost effective, what SmallRig actually did was pretty interesting. The rings that they actually have as their adapter rings are double-sided, so you can actually put in filters just like this 82mm Tiffin Black Pro Mist on your matte box without having to go out of your way to change your lenses. So this is as close as I can get to rigging out the Sony A7IV to be more of a handheld cinema rig type of setup. Now after all that setup, how much money does it cost to get something like the Sony A7IV, a mirrorless camera, to look and feel a little bit more like a cinema camera? And after doing all the math, I actually didn't do all the math, we are looking at anywhere between $1,083.66 and $1,110.75. Now the reason why there's a little bit of a variance is based on your region and based on what's on sale, or even the slight variations in some of the equipment that's in this kit. Your prices might vary by about $10 to $30. But that being said, that extra $1,000 could help rig out your kit from something that looks more like a mirrorless camera to something that's a little bit more professional for your client projects. Now we did make the assumption that you already have lenses, some form of a microphone, and SD card, so those things aren't included in this rig build. But if you want the links to everything that was mentioned in this video, it is down below, so you can pick it up yourself or at least check those things out and see if you'd be interested. That being said, this is the end of the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.